15 minutes in the video, I went like, and like I just feel my friend's hand just slap me in the chest. And I look at him, he looks at me, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I just wasted 25 years of my life." And he's like, "I don't understand." I'm like, "I just wasted 25 years of my life." And he's from Puerto Rico, so after that I was like, I said the same thing in Spanish, and he still didn't understand. I'm like, "Bro, everything that's in this video, I knew since I was a kid. This is wrong, this is right, blah blah blah." And I broke down the video that was an hour long, and I broke it down in like 15 minutes. And he was like, his face hadn't changed. He was still like, I'm like, I gave him a hug, and I'm like, "Bro, thank you for waking me up."
Welcome to the New Monks. This podcast is dedicated to those of us on the journey of evolution. Through these episodes, we will dive into the lives of individual people and discover what they have learnt and how they have handled their growth. We believe that we all have wisdom to be shared with each other and can learn from listening to each other's stories. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you feel like leaving us a review and sharing the love, that would be greatly appreciated. So this is just a heads up because, there's a lot of information that is coming to light at the moment. And through these episodes, each person is going to share a different side of that for them. Now, this isn't to say that every single thing that is shared here is going to be 100% accurate. It's just not where we are right now. It's just not the case of the unraveling and the disclosures that are being revealed to us. Obviously, things are always changing, and in one moment something can be so real and so true, and the next moment is completely shifted and changed into something else. This is the journey of evolution. This is the journey of ascension that we are going through right now. So this is just an invitation that your discernment is really, really important. As always, as usual, please take what resonates and leave the rest. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to the New Monks. Today I am speaking to Dr. Rishi, who I met online, and we actually got to meet in person in Amsterdam a few years ago. This episode is really about his journey into awakening, how it all started with watching a video that really opened up his world to the illusion and to the memory of why he's here, really reconnecting from his childhood. He then went on to study to be a chiropractic, and in the end ended up developing problems with his back. And within that, he was able to see flaws within that system that really were not helping and supporting. And so with his own spiritual evolution, he started to develop his own internal intuitive ways of working. Now he sees himself as a creator of different hubs around the world for the ascension that's taking place. And he also is very much so always reminding us through this episode of the importance of coming back to your why and your purpose and the reason why you were put onto this planet, as we all have been seeded with specific missions. And obviously we speak about Keylontic Science, which is the community where we met, and his perspective and views on that. And I just love how he always brings it back into balance, into the middle path, and always back into the internal journey within. Hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the New Monks podcast. Today I'm speaking to Dr. Rishi, and I'm looking forward to this chat because I feel like it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about it for quite a while. And I feel like there's so many different aspects of your journey to dive into. It's been a long one, huh?
It is.
So before we begin, I'd just like to take a few deep breaths in and out. And then just tell us how you're feeling right now.
I am feeling present and calm.
Mm, yes. How did you get there?
How did I get there? Meditating a lot and
Mm,
trying to relax in between different things during the day, taking little short breaks and mental reminders to just, kind of like what you just did now. Just take a couple deep breaths and ground, touch the floor with your feet and then
mm,
keep moving.
love that. So are you still meditating now these days?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Every
So
day,
how,
at least 3 hours approximately.
wow. So that is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I personally need it. It does. I don't feel myself if I don't really meditate,
Yeah.
and I do a lot of things in meditation. It's not just sitting there. Um, but I open the day with 3 hours, and I close the day with at least 1 hour.
That's a lot. So I'd love to hear more about that journey. How did that happen and how long has that been going on?
It's been on and off,
Mm.
but it started in 2017 when I woke up.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was, long story short, I was with a friend, um, and we were just chilling on my place, and he put a cartoon, Spirit Science, which I don't recommend to anyone because it has a lot of distortions on it.
Is that
But
on YouTube?
yes,
The
yes,
cartoons?
yep.
Yeah.
And there was, I don't know if it was 2 hours or 1 hour long, but 15 minutes in the video, I went like, and like I just feel my friend's hand just slap me in the chest. And I look at him. He looks at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I just wasted 25 years of my life." And he's like, "I don't understand." I'm like, "I just wasted 25 years of my life." And he's from Puerto Rico, so I after that I was like, I said the same thing in Spanish, and he still didn't understand. I'm like, bro, everything that's in this video, I knew since I was a kid. This is wrong. This is right. Blah blah blah. And I broke down the video that was an hour long, and I broke it down in like 15 minutes. And he was like, his face hadn't changed. He was still like, I'm like, I gave him a hug, and I'm like, bro, thank you for waking me up. And
Wow.
that year I was 25. And so going back to your question, after that day, I was like, I looked back and I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how I got here. Where did I lose my path? And I just started meditating for 2 to 3 hours every day, every day, every day, every day, while I was in the chiropractic school. And yeah, that's kind of like what set the foundation for me to meditate a lot.
I love that. So what was in the video that really touched you for
I
such
don't
a big
remember what part it was, but it was a combination of the wine that I was drinking and the other weed that we were the smoking, and it practically what it did was it relaxed my body and it relaxed also the energy around my body. So I was
Mm,
very present, very relaxed. Nothing on the past or the future it was inexistent. And for some reason, that video was enough to literally go into my true self and like be like, boop, touch it, and then that kind of like I literally went like, like if I hadn't, like my true self hadn't taken a breath in 25 years. So I would just gasp for air. And yeah, I was like, oh my God,
I
what
love it.
happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
I've loved that something like that can cause such a drastic shift, because it seems so like simple. I've seen some of those videos, but I love that it can really just shake
Yeah, I
things up.
think I feel, and from that day to now, I still feel the same, is that we carry a lot of stress and tension in the body, and it's
Mm,
completely subconscious, so we're not aware of it.
yeah.
And we also carry a lot of tension in our auric field and the energy around us. And when
Mm,
that tension is there, we're outside of our true self. And in that moment, I was able to let go of all that tension, or actually have some spaces within myself that were rid of that tension, and then just having that external stimuli basically activated, or kind of
Yeah.
knocked on the door, and I answered.
That's it. That's exactly it. I love that phrase.
And that's another thing that I learned through that experience, is that whenever I'm meditating, I try to go really deep into my body, into all the aspects of my body, even the energy centers and around my body. I'll start within my body, I'll start relaxing bit by bit, and I'll start,
Yeah.
opening the space up until I reach the auric field. And when I'm in that state, then I'll do the different meditations that I would do. And all the time, every time that I do that, the meditation is more profound. So it's not even about quieting the mind. Sometimes you have to do that to be able to relax and to
Yeah.
feel your body, and that's why continuous meditation and practice helps you get there. But I always relax everything, just kind of like whenever you're going to bed, you kind of like let go of
Yeah.
your body, and your body just lays there. So it's kind of like that mental, if you want to like track it in your brain to associate it with something that makes it easier, you can do it through that.
It's so interesting. I also do a similar thing when I'm meditating in these days. Like I just go through my body and I just like untangle. It's just
Mhm.
like, okay, release, relax, 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 relax. And this thing about you just said that it's not even about clearing the mind, because I feel like I really feel like sometimes people get it so twisted. Like there's so much focus on like, oh my gosh, you have to clear the mind, but I'm like, is that really the goal? Do you know what I mean? Because is that I feel like there's so much focus on like this no mind thing, you know. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you can also just allow everything to be and just completely relax.
Right. That's at least that's how I started my meditations. It was not like blocking all the thoughts, or like, because if you resist it, it'll persist. But in reality, what you have to do is just you have to like completely open in your mind and let stuff just flow through, move. And
Yes.
if you have to engage with it because it's related to a trauma or something like that, you can engage it, and like
Yeah.
that takes you down on another layer of meditation, that you can start unlocking the body through trauma and process the trauma in different
Yes.
ways.
100%.
But
I
yeah.
feel like what you're describing is way more like realistic. And I just remembered because when I was volunteering at the Vipassana Center, we were like, "This isn't this." I was like, ended up being there with a friend, and we would always discuss about it. But it was just like, this can't just be it, you know. And the goal of always just like trying to. There's so much more, like you're describing as well, that can happen within that meditation, you know.
Yep, you have to allow it. There's many different ways and levels and things that you can do in meditation, but I would say that a starting point would be to sit and let whatever's going in your head just move. Because what happens is that we live this busy go life, and what happens is that our subconscious starts storing stuff for us to be able to go. But whenever you sit, a lot of that stuff is starts to come out, and it
It's
starts
so
to come
true.
out, starts to come out, and it could
Yeah.
be traumas, events, or things that you need to process, etc.
Yeah.
And if you want to get to a space of quietness, you have to let all that stuff pass through, and
Oh,
you just have
I
to be
love
an
that.
observer and a witness without
Yes.
engaging. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I think, I mean, obviously that is the foundation of Vipassana, but the one thing that I feel like I just wasn't resonating with it is that they're always like, don't do anything there. And it always just seems like the goal is to be like in this kind of like no mind, when I just feel like that's actually such a distraction
Yeah.
and that so much healing can take place. But then they always deter people from doing that as well.
Yeah.
So interesting. So how did you find the meditation? Like, did it just naturally happen or did something else come?
Like how did I start meditating?
Yeah, after that video.
Because I think in that video they were talking about meditation and sitting, and I just went to my room, literally just sat,
Mm.
and then it was like I was guiding myself through different levels of meditation, whether it was somatic healing, trauma, even doing like advanced like geometry mechanics and moving stuff around my field, clearing channels in my body. It was very like it was very intuitive. Like I said, I just knew how to do all that stuff, and I just had to sit down and then
Yeah.
go through it. And whenever I sat down and I went through it, it literally, like, I didn't need to open a book or listen to somebody telling me how I should meditate. For me, it was just sitting down.
Mm.
And I went through different processes through that to that helped me refine my focus and my presence. And that's one of the things that I teach people, a specific strategy to be able to hone down focus, because one of the things that we lack in society is focus. And
Mm.
like, even Instagram and all these social media apps are tuning our focus down to not have any attention, let's say, span. Or and when you don't have that, you can't actually lock in into
Oof.
presence. And so
Yeah.
I teach different ways to anchor that. um, but yeah, it just started. I just literally sat down, closed my eyes, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. Took a breath, and then all of a sudden I'm guiding myself through stuff.
Mm. I
Yeah,
love that. That's so cool.
yeah.
But you said something as well earlier that when you watched a video and you said to your friend, like, I knew all of this already when I was younger. What was that? What was that?
What it's In my opinion, most of us arrive at the world conscious. Maybe
Mm.
not 100% conscious and are not 100% embodied, but there is some level of consciousness that we retain when we come into the body. And I basically remembered that aspect of myself, that I was conscious about many things, and that was basically uh, what happened. And I
So
just seeing them talking about these different things, I'm like, oh, I
I
know
knew.
this. Like, this is like
Yeah.
this. Wait, this is like that. This is not like this. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you conscious of it at the time, like, or even like at that time when you were like, oh yeah, I knew all of this? Did you remember it from when you were younger, or
Yeah.
was it just like, ah,
It was like, it was a knowing, and I literally remember how to do this. This is not correct. This entity that's in this video is not the right entity. Like, all these things just started popping up, and I was like consciously remembering it.
yeah, like in that moment, but like, is it like was it like it was coming back, or like you were like, oh yeah, or it just all came back at once, like,
It just popped up. I don't have a lot of my childhood memories. They're still locked up. But
yeah,
like,
same,
that's like me as a little baby human. But the
yeah,
conscious aspects that are not part of the baby human were
yeah.
there. And I saw, as more
Oof.
as I stopped to meditate, the more of that came up, and it came
Yeah.
up, and it came up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find that so interesting because I feel like sometimes when I was younger, also feel like I lost so much of. There was a moment when I remember, like, I started remembering things when I was like 8, I think. But before that, I just don't really remember things,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what happened?
I have pockets in my memory that are missing, or that are not, that I have to uncover, and it's usually guarded, or like the gatekeeper is some type of trauma
Yeah,
that's blocking it.
I
And
mean,
you can do some conscious work and do that, or you can work with somebody to unlock it. uh,
yeah.
yeah, but it's usually some type of trauma or some type of experience that just blocks the memory.
Mm. Yeah, I do. I love what you said though, that we're all like we're born with all of this knowledge and awareness already.
Yeah, I feel that most of us are, and I've tested this with babies, like babies that my friends have. I would communicate with them telepathically. Like,
Mm.
I'm telling you, like, let's say less than a year old baby, and they're
Yeah,
completely responding to everything. Um, so they're aware. They just look like little people, right? And people, in their mind, the perspective of a child is that they don't know anything. They come here completely,
yeah.
ignorant. They don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to talk. They put them in this category, and once you put them in the category, it bypasses, or like voids everything that they hold within.
Mm. So what do you think it was that happened with you? Like, it's like you knew, and then obviously there's this in between period until that video, right?
Right.
What was
So
that between? Yeah.
in my case, and I'm still diving into it deeper, but when you come, like my family all love, obviously they have their manipulative tendencies and their own BS that they adopted from their parents and society and
Yeah.
religion. But when you come into any family, depending on the level of, let's say, programming that they have,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you know what's going on, you're like a thorn in their foot every time that they step, right? And I'm aware of things. I can hear my mother's thoughts, and she's trying to get me to do something. I'm like, no, that's out of integrity. I don't want to do that. And so going through levels of that, when you're a child, you basically, if the adults don't know that you're actually here to show them better, they'll try to control you, they'll try to manipulate you, they'll try to change you, they'll try to dress you how they want you to dress, they'll try to change who you are, and then
Mm-hmm.
and deny it unconsciously. Most of the time they're doing that unconsciously because of their programming. But it gets to a point, at least in my experience, that you're trying to fight all of these energies, and through that fighting you start to go into coping mechanisms of wanting to be accepted, wanting to be this, because no, if you don't do this, and I'm not gonna do this for you, or I'm not gonna love you, or whatever. And through all these different things, one starts to switch who one is, or accept who one is for what they would like you to be. And when you're switching that acceptance, you're actually putting your power outside, and you're going into these mechanics that basically turn off those parts of you. And and in a way they become trauma, or they become uh yeah, just, you basically start forgetting who you are, because you're trying to be someone that you're not. So your authenticity, if you want to put it that way, start to turn off. And then you start to be able, you want to fit in after a certain point. And in me, I was always like a fighter. I was happy loving, and if I needed to tell you something in your face, I would tell you, no matter however you feel. That just put it there and just stop. But yeah, after a while that light dims, and you start forgetting about things. You still might have like a slight sense of who you are, and maybe not those deeper memories and this deeper reality, etc., but you might be heart centered, and you're moving through life as you can. But that's basically, in a I don't know, in a nutshell, what I can say that happened to me. And it happens to a lot of people too. And it's, like, as I work with clients, there's different stories, labels, and different ways that the story presents. But whenever you remove all of that out of the way without disrespecting that person, and you go back to the core of the imprint of why people go to where they are, you start seeing that there's an underlying pattern that is practically almost the same for everyone. And when you start seeing
Mm.
that, you don't need to, you can work on the memory aspect if you want to, like the story aspect for that person. But when you start seeing the core wounding or the core patterns that disconnect you, you actually go for those rather than the actual, like, how it happened. And so you
Yeah.
start seeing a pattern with all of that. And I started doing that with myself. I started noticing all of that in meditation. And once I was healing
Mm.
through meditation, and started working with people, I started noticing that.
Yeah, it's almost like in the meditation, it's like you can see clearly because so much, like you said as well, everything comes, things that have been suppressed and all sorts.
Hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. I think it is kind of like it's very similar for a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it's the cultural conditioning as well, right? To keep us not remembering the light, and
yeah.
so it
It's
kind of
it's
makes sense.
mostly, in my opinion, is to disconnect us from our purpose, and
Mm,
from actually doing what we're here to do. Um,
yeah,
from
yeah.
childhood, we have a lot of opportunities to heal. but the family system that we have don't know about those
Yeah.
mechanics because they've been programmed to
Yeah.
look at things from just one perspective, and that's all. And then when you have those opportunities to heal, they don't know that, and then it becomes like a self-fulfilling trauma loop that's
Yeah.
related to them
Wow.
and it's related to you, and then it moves on. But in reality, why it's happening, and it's really us doing it to ourselves in a way,
Yeah.
depending how deep you go into how this reality works. But essentially, it's to disconnect you from purpose, from what you're here to actually do, which is first, in my opinion, is
Mm.
healing. If you need to heal whatever it's in the karmic imprint of the body, and then your subconscious or your soul imprint, and then go and do what you're here to do, and in that way you can, go from karma to dharma, if you want to put it in those terms, and actually
Yeah.
do what
Love
you're
that.
here to do and not have to repeat another cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the interesting one about repeating the other cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what happened then? So you were meditating for ages. You were studying chiropractic, right?
Hmm.
How do you say that? Chiro.
Chiropractic.
Yeah.
I call it chiropractic.
Oh, I like that. Makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit caveman. There's more profound healing ways than just forcing a bone back to its place, and I don't do much chiropractic at all.
Really. So you studied it, and then like when did you come into that knowing? Like, did you practice it a bit?
Yeah, I did. In school, I learned all the techniques. You have to learn all that stuff to pass the test. So
Yeah.
I learned all the basic stuff. I did some side studies and seminars and all that. But the deeper that I went into myself, the more I understood that there's levels to healing.
Mm.
And so, long story short, I had a back injury while I was in chiropractic school. And for 2.5 years, I went to doctors. I spent over 5K in all sorts of techniques, everything, and nothing took my back pain away. And I'm like, sitting, studying for a test, and I'm like, why am I studying this? If it's not helping me? And in that moment, I was like,
Mm.
all right, I got to figure it out on my own. And that's when I went really deep into healing arts and different other things like detox, trauma,
Uh,
a lot of things basically. And I started rewiring my body, and I did find a technique that just adjusts the first bone in your neck, which in multidimensional terms is the ninth gate, or the what they call the mouth of God, and it's basically the ninth chakra. And that technique started to release a lot of the pain in my body because it works directly with the vagus nerve, and it works with some ligaments that are deep within the spine that hold the spine in, let's say, in stability, and it started to release the pain that was locked there. um,
Wild.
yeah, it was pretty good. And then I started doing functional patterns, and that basically returned the structure of my body back into function. But the forceful adjustments, my body was completely, um,
Not yeah.
yeah, it was completely out of my octave of what I needed. And in my journey, I found that, let's say that 10% of people that arrive at a chiropractic office, it's because of some type of physical trauma, like an
Yeah.
accident or a fall, or some part of their
Yeah.
body is not aligned and they're like walking really weird, and then that creates some pain. But
Yeah. Yeah.
80% of that, you can compound it into emotional trauma and
Yeah.
chemical imbalances, which in a way is the same. And so whenever I saw that, I was like it doesn't make sense for me to force a
Yeah.
bone back into place. Like, it's chiropractic is not invasive in that sense, but it is invasive whenever you know this. And the deeper that I went, I understood that whenever you do an adjustment on someone, it creates laxity in the ligaments. So basically, if you have an underwear and you start pulling it out, pulling, at some point it's not going to return. It's going to stay, it's going to lose its elasticity. And that's what's happening with a lot of the uh,
Uh,
ligaments in the spine. So when that happens, if you know that the kundalini and all, like, the spinal energy rises through the spine, imagine having a vertebra that doesn't go back to place.
Oh my
It's an
days.
interruption in the system. And so the deeper and deeper that I went, I was like, uh,
It's
yeah,
not
a
it.
lot of people are not seeing through this. And I just started working on different levels of healing, which had to do with emotions, psychic stuff, and I would just put
Yeah.
my hands on them and feel what was really going on. But anyway, yeah.
So what happened with you and your back?
Well, that's what I said. I was at the gym and I was doing exercises and I was talking to someone and I wasn't bracing too well and I was putting too much weight, and whenever I pulled, sprained my back, my low back, which already it happened because there was an imbalance in my body, and then it created
Gotcha.
that. Yeah. And it was, in a way, it was like a, the hologram, the universe saying like it's not that way, it's
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Love it. And then the technique that you were using, like that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's very soft. It's what you could call a tonal technique, which is just a like a soft contact on the skin, and it moves the bone, the
So
atlas.
you were doing it to yourself?
No, I can't do it on myself. Well, I've tried different
Huh.
ways, and I kind of do it. And you can also play with it with your mind, and you can kind of move it a little bit by releasing the tension of the muscles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't do it on myself.
So and what is this modality? Does it have a name?
So it's called, you can call atlas adjusting, but there's
Oh
different.
yes. I've heard of this.
Yeah, but there's different techniques within what you
Okay.
call the atlas adjustment. So there's toggle,
Gotcha.
nuka. I think another one is Blair.
Well,
There's even one that you have like a machine and it like throws air here with pressure and it moves the bone. There's different ways of doing it. But I don't resonate with it in a way because you have to do a lot of X-rays.
oh damn.
And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know, but X-rays manifest in the body in 30 years. But when you
Wait,
look,
what?
yeah, that's why they
That's
still use them, because they're like, oh, it's not invasive, it doesn't, do any harm. But whenever you're doing that, it actually marks the problem in the etheric field or the auric field, and then that starts to percolate into the body, and then it manifests in the body, other than the radiation that you get from it.
wait. So obviously there's a radiation, yeah. But you're talking about something else now.
Yeah.
So when you do an X-ray, what are you saying? What you see on the X-ray manifests?
Oh, you don't see it. You only the X-ray you'll see is some tissues, gases, and bone.
Yes.
But people that can see auras and have that capacity completely open, they can see how it fractures the auric field. And then if you track that and that person doesn't correct it, then that manifests in the body.
Wow.
Yeah,
Basically, it's just going to be a fracture in the auric field that travels into the physical body in
right.
numerous different ways.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
because the person can have different conducts, traumas, etc., and that can
Yeah.
predispose to having it faster in the body.
Yeah.
So I
So how?
learned how to, whenever I started learning into all of that, I started, instead of like palpating, which is physical contact, I started sensing, and I
Yeah.
started feeling, sensing, and then, you know, while I'm unlocking my pineal gland and working on the other metaphysical aspects of who I was when I was a little kid, I started noticing that I would see the bone, or I would see the trauma, or I would start
Yeah. Like
feeling.
it would come to your mind,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an X-ray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's the reality of what, like, our eyes are X-rays, our hands are X-rays, and I was
Wow.
like, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to like upgrade this a little bit for myself, and as I started doing that and shifting my focus from
Yeah.
having to understand the body through contact and having to understand
Mm.
it through energy or through seeing or through seeing with the third
Mm.
eye, it completely shifted the way that I was experiencing the reality of that patient. And whenever I was doing that,
Mm.
I started, going deeper into it. And so sometimes I'll just put my fingers on your neck and I'll close my eyes and I'll see where the bone is. And then I'll know what angle, because to
Wow.
adjust the bone, you have to have a specific angle to do it. And the more I do it, the more accurate I become on that. That's why people take x-rays in regards to this technique, because you have to like measure, like triangulate basically the bone to like the decimal points to be able to have the right angle to enter and move it in the right
Yeah,
direction. But yeah.
I love that. I feel like it's very intuitive, you know. But also, I know other people who work like that, and there's not masters who work with their hands in those ways, you know, like just sensing, just feeling.
I think they are. They're just not very known.
No, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And also, you're just, and I love it because it's like it's the capabilities that we already have, right? And you're just developing it, tuning in, and just yeah, expanding on that.
Yep.
So, so you said when you were doing the test, you already realized that this is it's a bit maybe a bit forceful the way that chiropractic like works. So
Yeah.
then, what happened when you
Yeah,
finished
then
it?
I remember that that's not what I came here to do.
Do I?
And I was like, oh my god, okay, gotta go backtrack to why I'm here. And this,
Here, wow.
what's funny enough, the school was called Life University, right? So I wasn't there to study chiropractic. I was there to study life.
Life,
So
life.
that was like a like a inside joke the universe had on me. Um,
Love
yeah.
that.
It made it more pleasant. I was like, damn it, I lost my track. I gotta track back to where I lost it, heal that, and then remember why I ended up here and where was it supposed to be
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Course correction. I love that.
right, with no regret. And this is a lot I talked to this about a lot of people, and they're like, oh, you have a regret. I'm like, no, like this is a higher sensory perception ability that you should have in accepting
Yeah,
that you're not where you're supposed to be. And some people
yeah,
are like, "Oh, you're exactly where you're supposed to be," because they heard it from somebody else, from somebody else, from somebody else, from somebody else. But yeah, that is true to some degree. But there's other things that happen that derail you from your, like, let's say, most optimal path, and you're
it's
like
true.
finding your way in between A and like path A, path B, and path E. You're like finding your way through
Yeah,
which one is the right one as you heal, as you remember, etc. And a lot of people don't accept that. A lot of people deny that. And it was my experience without, whatever. I was like, what happened that led me here? And I just sat down and I started seeing that I was not supposed to be in chiropractic school. I saw where in my timeline I something happened that derailed me, and then I went back and backtracked that, and I started to see where I was like diverting from my original path. What things happen as you start unlocking those things, you start closing into your purpose.
yeah.
And there's many layers to purpose, right? Depending on what you're focused and where you're heading. But I want to go to the original birth purpose, and I train people on that as well, how to get to that location. And once I arrived there, I basically was like, all right, I'm just gonna, finish the school, so I don't say that I dropped it off, and then
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
continue with my purpose, and that's where I'm at right now.
So when did you finish the school?
21, 2021.
Mm, okay. So yeah, it's interesting. I think I like what you shared about the distraction and everything because it's a bit of a contradiction. I think
Yep.
because it's like everything is taking you there, and obviously you must have learned so much through this course, and obviously not just what you learned through there, but what you learned about it, everything that you just described, like around it. That maybe there are other ways to do it. You know what I mean? There's so much, but then at the same time, it's like this isn't the end goal. Like there's more going on here,
Yeah.
and that and I like I love what you said. That just like accepting that this isn't my path,
Yep.
and continuing to find that.
Yep.
It's I find it so interesting because, but then at the same time, I always feel like even those distractions, sometimes you have to go to the distractions,
Yeah.
and like
It depends on
learn.
on your chosen form of learning.
Yeah, yes, love that.
There's different ways to learn, in my opinion. You can learn.
Yeah,
So if the reality is a mirror to you, you can learn from within, or you can learn from your focus outside, right?
Yeah.
And that focus outside can be through, uh, you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say positive and negative, but I see it as a neutral. It's still a learning experience, but you can learn
Yes.
more valuable, less negative experiences in the outside and more negative experiences on the outside, depending on what you actually need
Yeah.
to revert your focus back within,
Yeah. But the
right?
thing is, I feel like like it takes awareness to realize that. Do you know
Yes,
what I mean?
it
So
does.
I feel like at some point, and I feel like so many of us were learning in these outside negative experiences until we get to a point where it's just like, hang on a minute, I don't really want to have this experience anymore. You know?
Yep, yep. Because it's what reality does. It takes your focus into the outside, and that's part of the one of the first traumas is that
Yeah.
you start
Wow.
putting your power, your attention, you put everything in the
Outside.
outside rather than within. Like there's tribes in the world, like for example, is the Kogi tribe in Colombia. They have
Yeah.
those children since they're born or 7 years or something like that. They have them like 13 to 7 years inside a cave, working on themselves to clear all
Wow.
the trauma, the karmic imprints, etc., and then they go out to the world to do whatever they're here to do. And so we don't have
Wow.
that in society. That's a rite of passage, you know. We
Passage.
don't
Yeah.
have that in society, and what we have is like adults that are dreaming of having a child, and they're dreaming of what type of shoes they want to put on them, to like, how they want to comb their hair and how they want to dress them, and then children become this like little toys. It's
Yeah.
very, to me, it's very disrespectful because
Dude.
it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's not
Dude.
why children and new souls come into the world. And
Yeah.
they come here
100%.
to learn, to heal, and to do something, not to
Honestly,
be like a toy.
but yeah, I see people having children so like flippantly, and I'm just like,
Unconscious,
what? I'm
super
like, what?
unconscious.
It's wild, and I'm like,
Yep.
how do they do that? Like,
It's super unconscious, very unconscious. But again, there's levels to the experience and to the game, and they're
that's true.
whatever they don't heal, they have to heal through their children, and it goes back into the same pattern,
Yes, so true,
right?
so true. I love what you just said here about the cave as well. Like, that's fascinating. The
Yeah, it's part.
13 to 17, you said they
Yeah,
come out.
I think it was either at 7 they start or they go out at 13. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I
I,
know that they spend almost like the entire first years of their life in a cave working on themselves. Like they come into a lit world of light, right? We can see everything here because it's reflecting light, and then they
yeah.
put them back into the darkness so that they can know themselves properly, work on what they need to do, and
Mm,
then come out into the world as they need to come out.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I think what you're describing as well is exactly just it's so much questions and about why and what are we doing? What's the reason? What's the purpose? Like why are we having children? You
Hmm.
know, and why are we here? Because when you're doing it unconsciously, there's so much happens, consequences that you don't even realize, I
Right,
think.
right.
But yeah.
It's just a method. It's just a method of experiencing and growing and learning, and then
Yeah.
a backtracking to the higher dimensional expressions of yourself. That's why they say that,
Mm,
oh, there's God is in everyone and everybody is the same and etc. At some level, it's real, but it's still at this level it's real as well. But we are still in the
yeah.
separation of illusion, and so we're healing through all of those things that keep us separated from the center or the source or what people call God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the more that you work on that illusion, the more that you heal, the more that you work on your beliefs, etc., the more you can ground that presence and that
Mm,
awareness of that and start actually figuring out what's going on without the stories, without the BS, without the drama, the duality, etc., or the division, which is separation.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting now. What you said something about the cycle and the children, and yeah, I would love to hear what you think. Like you said, some people having children very unconsciously. how would you like to have children, or you know what I mean? What is a more conscious way of and connecting to like the why and the purpose?
Well, I still haven't defined that completely for myself, but
Yeah.
I would say that one of the first steps is to work on yourself first, clear as much as you can, and then you can go into with DNA compatibility, soul compatibility. There's so many other things that go into that in regards to details. But if you focus on yourself and working on yourself, the more you clear, the more you're gonna reflect someone that is in that same level of experience or that level of consciousness that then you can actually choose to be with if you want it to be with to for the because you have a collective path, but most of the time it's something that you have to heal, and at the beginning relationships are a trauma bond.
Oof.
Is not like you're destined to be with that person. It's just something that's looking to resolve within you and that other person. And yeah, that can turn into a beautiful relationship, but um,
Yeah.
there's levels to it. There's levels to
So,
it.
so did
But
you
yeah,
say relationships are a trauma bond? Like all relationships?
I would say most of them, yes. Until you
That's
finish,
true. I agree with you.
I, I would say yes. And depending where you're at, like I noticed that as soon as I'm working on a trauma or I'm not figuring some trauma, I'll have either like something in the hologram reflected or a potential partner reflected. I'm like, all right, this is what I
Mm,
needed to heal. I don't have to go into the relationship to heal it. If you have mastery of yourself enough, I would say that you can understand it, you can see it, and you can heal it on yourself, or you can go into a relationship that's conscious and work on it. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna stay with that person your whole life. So going back to conscious
oh
relationship,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to be aware of all of these mechanics to actually have a conscious relationship. And I am not aware of all of them. But I
yeah,
would say that it would start with healing. Going back to your question, I would say it would start with
yeah.
healing.
And that's why your own healing is so important, so that you are able to see, is this me? What is being reflected? Da, da, da.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm just gonna say I don't know. But there's gonna be a point that you will match out with someone that
Yeah.
has um a parallel purpose or a purpose that is in line with yours. So to me,
Yes.
the other part of relationships is
Love.
is she aligned with my purpose? Because after
Yeah,
my healing comes my purpose. Those are my two priorities. If she's
yeah,
not healing, she's not aligned with me. If her purpose is not aligned with mine, she's not aligned with me. It doesn't matter if she's everything that I've wanted in life.
yeah,
It really doesn't matter because it just becomes in a way a distraction, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
and
feel, I'm
yeah,
sorry. No, I feel like that's one thing I realize when it comes to love. Like, you have to be practical. There's one level where you have to be very practical outside of the feeling and the emotions, you know?
yeah. I have
And
both sides. I'm pretty passionate. I'm really giving into a relationship
yeah,
and committed, but as I gone in and out of relationship, these two things never change. And the more
yeah,
I get to know myself, the more those things have weight in my life. And
yeah,
yeah, and then going to back to children, then it would be in the
um,
same aspects of purpose healing. And if you have like you can go into contracts and all these different things that a specific child is part of your purpose and you have to birth the child because the child's going to do some other things. And from that perspective, I haven't studied much, but I know that you can start having conversations with those
yeah,
souls that have contracts that need to come with you or through
yeah,
you. Um, and so
yeah.
there's many levels to it. I'm not like trying to to poo poo or like to make people feel bad in the sense
Mm.
of where they're at, and if they didn't choose to do these things in a way. It's just what I've figured out so
Yeah,
far in my own
yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And just quickly on the trauma bond, because I feel like that word is thrown around quite a lot, but like what does that one look like for you?
So it's not that negative. It's just basically Yeah, how I see it is I have something to heal. My
Yeah,
focus is not so within that I can't figure it out, and it's gonna reflect in the hologram for me to figure it out, to for me to
yeah,
see myself in the mirror, right?
yeah,
And then if it's a female, then it's gonna be, and I choose to be in a relationship. That's what people, I would say, call trauma bonds, because they're coming together a bond based on the trauma to heal, right? But
yeah,
again, it goes back to my first principle, which is healing, right? So you can go into relationships, you can have those trauma bonds if you stay focused on the healing. Obviously, the lovey-dovey of the relationship and all that, that is fine, but the intention, the real reason why you two are coming together is to heal. It's
yeah,
not to have a baby, it's not to fuck, it's not to, change your purpose, it's not to dismiss your purpose, is to heal. If
yeah,
that becomes secondary, then it's a distraction, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I love it as well because a lot of what you're talking about is just about alignment, and sometimes this can be like you can see how often we dismiss it,
Yep.
and it's like yeah, and makes things difficult and everything. But yeah, with the trauma bond, you say you see it in the other person. Ultimately, it's going to be them doing something that you might think is their problem and their fault, right? I feel like this happens in relationships when
Yeah, I
actually,
mean, and again, it goes back to how aware you are, how present you are with yourself. Because
yeah,
if you're seeing it like that, you're projecting and you're not actually catching up to what it is. And
yeah,
it could particularly be a pattern that they have, right? It could be a subconscious pattern that they have, and you calling it out is their healing, right? But
yes,
you have to have all these perspectives
layers, yeah,
present so that you can actually see exactly
see,
what it is. And it's not
yeah,
about thinking. You have to also feel that. You have to sense it. You have to intuitively pick
mm,
it up
mm,
so that you can have all those faculties activated
yeah,
and actually be, present enough to understand
yeah.
what's really going on.
I love that. And but just back to what you said because I like this thing about externalizing things. You know what I mean? And actually, that inner journey is so important.
Hmm.
And in relationship, I feel like in some moments it's so easy to externalize. You know,
Yeah.
it's so wild. But
Yeah.
obviously,
And
yeah.
it's in
Sorry.
relationship, you can go deep into healing as well. Like that's why a lot of people go into relationship when they're aware of this. And you could certainly go really deep into trauma, and that creates a deeper bond with that person if you uncover the trauma and you work through it, right? And
Yeah.
that's why relationships are very important. But again,
Yes.
it's just a mirror of the inside. So if you don't have the practice of meditating, which I'm not there yet, I still reflect into their hologram and I have to heal through the external mean. I try to balance it out. I try to
Yeah.
have as much internal focus as external focus, because
Mm.
if I'm not being able
Yes.
to find what is within me, I am aware enough, I'm present enough to see it outside of myself, right?
Yeah. It's like a constant. I like that because yeah, it's like this constant thing. If something's happening, it's constant. Like, okay, what's happening? Why?
Yeah.
Why is this showing up? You know?
Yeah, the key also is like not everything that you see outside of you is a reflection of you. So that's
Oh
something
yeah,
that's very important because a lot of people get lost in those loops.
yeah,
Uh,
100%.
but there's things that you can definitely feel that there's an alignment with that's reflecting to you something.
Yeah,
And at
but
some
also
level, like at some level, whenever you like read into like rainbow body and all this stuff, at some level, the deeper aspects of truth is that everything is a reflection of your own internal thing. And that's
yeah,
when they say that whenever you reach like rainbow body, you actually turn into a light because
yeah,
you trespass or you like
yeah,
go beyond the reflection and you disappear basically.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly like Celestine prophecy.
Yeah.
I think you posted that recently.
Yeah, yeah. I was back in Tulum, and I was called to revisit that. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
that
where
was
we're going. That's where we're going.
yeah,
There's
that
a
is what we're going.
yeah.
You know, when I read that was like the second book that I read when my awakening began, and it
Uh,
was so funny because there was this girl that used to come into this place I used to work all the time. I bumped into her in the street, and she's like, "How are you doing?" And I just opened up and I like told her everything, and she was like, "Jess, this happened to me." And she started telling me, and then she goes, "What books have you read?" And she goes, "You have to read the Celestine Prophecy." That was like the second one, and I was like, and I just remember reading it, and that part exactly without the like, oh my word, it just was just like, this is gonna happen.
that movie that I didn't watch the I didn't read the book. I watched the
Uh,
movie.
yeah,
Um, but I read parts of it. But I just have a thing about I don't want to read. I just want to read myself. But I
Mm.
happened to watch the movie, and it's a solid playbook. Like it's a solid rule set of living life. It's a very it's like it's not even basic. You have to go deep with it. But
Yeah, it's not even basic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And in the surface, it might seem basic, but it's profound, and it's a really good
Yeah,
metric to live life through in a way.
I love that. So just quickly, I wanted to say that yeah, I love what you said. Everything's not a reflection of you, like precisely, because I 100%. I feel like people can get lost there. But at the same time, if you're constantly looking internally, I just think that you will see what is and what isn't. It will be clear, you know.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, we just got onto soliciting prophecy. So when you say that's where we're going, what do you mean?
Exactly that. You have to follow the synchronicities. So like
Yes,
the interesting
yes.
thing about this hologram is that, and I'll put it this way. In Spanish, we have a saying that says, "El que llama el diablo lo ve venir," and that means he who calls the devil will see him coming.
Oof.
Right. And so life is literally like that. If you try to find something, you're gonna find it. So
Mm.
to me is the more you clear yourself, your ego, your awareness, like who you thought you were, your all your shit, your trauma, etc. The more you can see clearly where you should head to,
Oof.
and that's what I call like the original birth purpose, like what you're here to really do. And the more you get clear on that, the more the reality is going to support creating that hologram that you're going to see that happening, right? and
Yeah.
and in the Celestine prophecy, they follow the insights, right? Like
But,
the destination that you have to go to as you walk through the insights. And the insights
mm.
are like a synchronicity in a way, but also as a rule or a guide that you can use to go into that original path in a way. That's how I see it. And so at the end of the road, we talk about this bifurcation of timelines and the rapture and all this stuff that just two worlds existing or diverting. you know
Yeah.
in reality, whether that is true or not, that's what I see at the end of the Celestine prophecy. It's like the promised land,
Yeah, that's true.
the world that we should create versus the world that we should follow into. Because
Yeah.
we are here to create or to follow. And if you're following, then you have to see what you're following, if it's the right direction. If you're creating, you have to see if you're creating correctly within integrity, love, etc., to be able to create in the right direction. So once you figure those two out, you'll see a better world at the end of the day.
Mm.
That's kind of like what they're leading into the Celestine prophecy. It's like a higher dimensional expression of the reality that they were living in. And that's why at the end
Yeah.
of the movie they're like vibrating or their
Hi.
frequency
Yeah.
in a higher rate, and
Yeah.
they went into a dimensional space that the other people couldn't see them.
See them. This part
Right.
really touched me.
Right, and it doesn't matter if they blow up the ruins. It doesn't matter if the third world war comes. It doesn't matter if the Phoenix event ruins the whole planet. It doesn't matter of all of that, because you're gonna be in the right place, or in the right
Mm.
dimension, or in the right location. That doesn't even happen, because it's a pocket of reality that's vibrating or has a frequency so high that the lower densities of the reality is not they're not gonna affect.
Well, this is such an interesting one because I feel like that's you're just describing that bifurcation that so many people are talking about, right? And I feel like it can be very confusing. Like what does it mean? Is it just physical, or is it more like the Celestine prophecy is kind of saying?
I can't tell you that I know, like for a fact. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but
I know, but I'm not talking about it.
yeah, I would say that depending on the level of your awareness and consciousness, there will be a physical aspect to it. There will be a
Yeah.
more energetic aspect, and there will be an aspect that has nothing to do with the world itself. It's somewhere else. So
Mm.
I don't really know exactly what.
Yeah. But I
As
like what.
I figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess we'll figure out when we
Yeah,
get there.
yeah, we,
We'll know when we're there.
yeah. I got a good friend that says we live and we learn.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so but I like the part when you said about like, there can be a world war going on or whatnot, and it's just not affecting you. You know,
and that's also what's happening right now.
it is. Yeah,
If there's all these dramas and all these attacks and all these things, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're practicing with yourself, if you're doing what you need to be doing, like for healing, etc., it that thing doesn't even affect me. Like for example, there was a hurricane 3 4 days ago. It was category 1, and in less than 24 hours it became category 5.
wow.
And I'm like, here, I noticed that it's getting cloudy, but I had no clue until somebody texted me. He's like, "Hey, there's a hurricane coming." Now it's category 5. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, whatever." I'll have some food and gasoline, and that's it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was doing what I needed to do.
It's fascinating. Even I heard there's this community set up in Portugal, and then I saw that they posted that there were some fires, but
In,
then they were like, huh?
in the community,
No, just in the area. And then the fires didn't touch them. So I guess it's kind of like that. And they were just like, wow.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
there's it's what in Keylontic Science they call it ascending hubs or descending hubs.
Yeah.
And so a hub is basically like a community,
Yeah.
and ascending is depending on the frequency of healing, like the different levels of embodiment that every single person that is part of that collective hub has. And so
Yes.
you would say descending hubs would be like cities, these
Yeah.
15-minute cities, smart cities, all this junk is going to be like completely descending hubs. So there's also going to be conscious communities that are going to be descending hubs based on their level of embodiment, their level of healing, and
Yeah.
what type of stuff they're doing in the field.
Yeah. I love that stuff they're doing. um, so I guess as well is like what you're saying is realizing when you are a creator, taking responsibility, right, of your energetic, vibration or whatever you want to call it. And so in that way, again, you are attracting what you are. So it's like those natural disasters won't affect you. They're not coming into alignment. Like how? Yeah, love to
Yeah,
just
in a way, yeah, I would say so. Sometimes you have to go through them.
yeah,
There's so many variables to it. But the more that you work on your healing, the more that you work on your embodiment, the more that you follow that heart-centered direction, the better that you're gonna be in the location that you need to be or the time that you need to be.
yes,
I I've lived my life without a clock in my hands, like a watch,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I've always, you know, interestingly enough, been in the right place in the right time for specific things
yeah,
without knowing the time. You know, I even deprogrammed the names of the months out of my head. I don't even know the right order completely. I would have to like sit down and think about it to
yeah.
remember. Um, and it's all about that. It's just all about the synchronicity, all about clearing your own stuff so that you can be in the right direction.
So, and what do you think about? Because I feel like obviously, along with this, you won't be affected bifurcation thing. There's obviously always this group of people who are like, oh my god, you need to focus on what's going on over here. And do you know what I mean?
Um,
How does that play into it?
so again, it's if if
Really?
if you
Yeah.
call the devil, you will see him coming. If if you in a way, like, you're giving power to something that you don't want to see. If your creation, like, if we know that by science we observe an experiment and the observer is changing it, the more people observing that experiment, let's say these agendas, the more people in some way are giving power to it, regardless if they're denying that they want to be part of it or not. If they're
What? Yeah.
if they're only following, oh, it's gonna happen this day, it's gonna happen that day, it's gonna blah 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 blah, are you doing something that's actually not feeding it? Are you part of the
Yeah.
program, right? And so, yeah, you can be aware of them. You're not. It's not to ignore them. It's not to ignore what
Yes.
things are happening. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not ignorant of the blue light. I'm using blue blockers, right? But
Yeah.
there's all these agendas that you can consciously choose to participate on them or not
Yeah.
participate on them. And so, depending how you put your energy into that focus, that towards that thing, then you help create it. And so the
Yeah.
more that you put your focus in that, and rather not not put the focus on what's more important, which is healing and
Yeah.
moving in the right direction, then you're actually feeding that, that
Yeah.
other wolf. And
Well, again, it's coming back to what you keep saying is focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Bring it back inside rather than outside, right?
yep,
And sometimes we forget. But 100%, I think a lot of people can still fall prey to fear in different ways just by knowing information, having the knowledge and just like, oh my God, they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to do this. I'm just like, I don't freaking care. Like,
yep, yep.
they do whatever they want. Like,
Yep. And I'm not saying like go hide in your house, right? And just don't go out of your room and meditate for 24 hours a day. You have to live a life,
mm,
etc. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
there's levels of awareness that you can sense within your body, whether you're leaning into the outside or you're leaning more into the inside. And to me, it's finding the
yeah,
balance in all these things, finding the
yeah,
neutral point of
yeah,
good and bad,
yeah,
inner or out, above and below. Let's find that middle path, and that way you can actually ground into what you need to
yeah,
be doing, what you need to be focusing on, healing,
yeah,
work, blah 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 blah.
yeah, I love that. And I guess if you're, leaning too much into fear or
Right.
coming back
Right.
to your heart,
If there's fear that you're not in your heart, then you don't trust. You're in stress. You're in a survival mode. You're fight or flight. You're
yeah,
feeding the fire. If
yeah,
you step out of that, that means that there's work still to be
what
done.
did you do? Yes.
Yeah, some of those
Love,
things I don't feel those things, but there's other things within myself that I have to still work on, right? So
yeah,
it's a constant day-to-day thing that you have to choose to do.
yeah,
But the more that you're in love, the more that you're in that trusting energy, the more you know that you're gonna be closer and closer and closer, or in the right path.
mm, yeah, and you have to trust.
Yeah, it's like I spent 5 years studying chiropractic, and through that process I learned that I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm like, all right, I just wasted 5 years of my life studying this. Not
Yeah,
wasted. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of stuff, and I made really good friends, etc. But
yeah, always,
at the end of the day, what I was going to is like, okay, I have to completely drop this,
yeah,
trust where I'm heading, and just trust and just go, and
yeah,
go in that direction. There was almost like a year and a half that I was living on my parents' laundry room with a bed in the floor and a like split unit on like an AC unit, right? Until I was like, and what I was doing, meditating, detoxing, and working on the inner path so I can see more clear where I needed to go as I maintain this trust. And that's what led me to where I'm at. That's what's gonna lead me to where I'm going, etc. And so far, the more that I trust, the
yeah,
easier it is.
yeah. Of course, because there's less resistance.
Right.
I know it sounds so silly, huh?
It is. It is. And sometimes it's like, come on, man, trust.
Yeah,
Like, but
yeah,
once you drop in it, and it really makes it a lot easier.
yeah. So that's what happened. So afterwards, you went to your parents and you were figuring it out. Then what happened after that?
Well, I kind of knew what I needed to be doing, and as I transitioned between doing this or not doing this, I already knew, like, I didn't have all the details, but I knew the next step. Like, when you're tuned in and meditate a lot, and you're clear on it. I'm not super clear. I'm not 100%, but you start seeing the next step and the next step and the next step. It's just like kind of like the insights in
Mm.
the Celestine prophecy, and you start seeing them, and then
Wow.
you just have to trust while you
That's,
leap into it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, oh, that's big.
Yeah, it's like walking the invisible bridge. You don't know it's
Mm,
there until you take a step, and once you take a step, it's like, oh wait, should I take
it's
another
there.
step? And then you take another step, it's like, oh, it's there, and then you go halfway, and then you look back, and there's a whole bridge, and it's like,
It's-
oh,
Yeah, I love
happened.
that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, care to share anything about your purpose?
Mm, perfect. I'm gonna give you a brief review because there's parts that I need to keep private, but
Yeah.
creating beautiful locations in the world that sustain life from basic
Mm,
needs to the basic activations that we need to have to be a foundation for children to come into the world and not have to
mm,
deal with the BS of reality and connect the different levels of the hubs as well and helping people escape or not escape, grow outside of the
yeah.
the wheel of samsara.
Yeah. I love that reframe. Yes.
Yeah, because if
Yes.
you're escaping, you're like, there's still work that you need to do.
Yeah. There's this is a lot. That's so amazing that you said it, and because you said it, then that little insight came. You know.
Yeah, that was my I was used to say that so much that it makes more sense that you have to grow out of it. You have to be like, oh, I'm done with looping. I'm done with that. I don't have to escape it because I grew up out of it. It's just like
Mm.
it's like a normal pattern in your life. You either grow, you try to escape, or you keep looping on it until you figure out that you're in a loop.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah. You definitely figure you're in a loop.
Some people go to the grave and not figure it out.
I know. Such a game, isn't it?
It's an interesting one. I like to be playful with it because if you're not playful with it, you're gonna get in a really dark place. You have to keep that child loving, playful, angry, and crying, and like. But at the end of the day, you have to see it as a playful game. No matter how much you suffer,
Mm.
no matter how good you have your life or whatever's going on in your life right now, I feel that there has to be some type of play, like
Yeah,
internally.
it's
There's
big.
times that it's not gonna feel like that, obviously, but
Yeah.
come back into it because the more that you're there, like I've gone through really weird and crazy and not so cool experiences,
Yeah.
and I had that in the back of my mind. It's like in that playfulness kept reminding me that it's not that serious. By
Mm.
keeping that in the reminder, then I was able to go through it a lot easier. And
Yeah.
even to a point that if when you land it really good in your body and you have that presence in you, you start seeing things that might be like chaotic, serious, etc. And you're gonna know in that moment why it's happening.
Yeah.
And you can transmute it through that without even having to it be acquired by you as a trauma.
Yeah. I feel like that's kudos to the meditation.
Oh yeah. That's why I have to do it every day. And sometimes I try to play around with how do I meditate during the day while I have my eyes open, and
Yeah, yeah,
there's different other capacities that you can develop
it's true.
through the senses because there's gonna be a point in my life that I probably won't be meditating every day, and I would have to be the meditation,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
essentially
yeah,
what you want to go like look for or look forwards to is that your
yeah,
breath is a meditation, your observation is a meditation, your listening is a meditation. You're in that state continually. You're muted for some reason.
yeah. Sorry, I think I clicked on it by accident. um, I feel like there's some other things that I wanted to talk about, like Keylontic Science stuff, because obviously we met in that group, and that was such a big moment. I feel like for so many of us, do you know?
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that we found each other. online as well during this crazy period, those years after 2020, and like all in different parts of the world, you know.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
I don't even know, like what was your experience with that, and like how did you find it, and where are you now with it? You know.
Yeah, so my experience, how it started was meditating, 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 meditating. And I knew that I was able to, like, I understood how creation works. And one day I was like, all right, so if everything, I like to take all the details and see how all the details relate to one thing. And then I'll see if they relate to two or to three things instead of seeing all the details.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, I was like, all right, so creation is light, sound, and geometry, which is an expression of each other. Like they all are interchangeable. And I'm like, all right,
Yes.
so that means that if the flower of life is the basically the imprint that we know of that is holding everything within it, then that means that
Mm.
if I access information through the symbol, I can get to where I what I need to know. And then I actually bought like a tapestry of the flower of life in black and gold, and I started meditating on top of it, and I started going into the symbol and going into the symbol and going to the symbol.
Oh,
And
yeah, I've heard about this story, you know. But I've never heard you tell me it.
yeah, and I started going into the symbol and going into the symbol, and every time that I went to the symbol, it was a completely new experience, very different. Whether it was a past life or something healing, getting information, many things, many different things. And then one day, I go in, and then all of a sudden, I'm back, and I'm like, "What just happened?" And I stand up to. Oh wait, no, I come in my body, and I'm like, "Where am I?" And I look at my hands, and I'm like in my mind, I'm like, "Who am I?" I was like, I was so far, I don't know where, that I had to reorient myself to where I was, what year, like who is this body, what's his name, who's the president. It's like if I had a concussion, like in medicine, you would have a concussion and you talk to what's your wife's names, what's your dog's name, who's the president, what year are we in, to see how conscious they are. And I had to backtrack all that to know where I was in that moment. And as I'm standing up, I literally take a step outside of the symbol. And in my head, there's something saying the purpose of everything is to escape the flower of life. And then,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
my second foot touches the ground, like touches the rug in my room. And I'm like, I grab the table in front of me. I'm like, the purpose of everything is to escape the flower of life. I'm like, what the
What
fuck?
does that mean? Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? And I look out the window and I'm like, everything is the power of life.
Right?
And I'm like, I don't understand. And I looked at the sim and I'm like, I don't know. Like, and then I grabbed the clock and I was like 2.5 hours in meditation. I had no memory of what was going on for 2 hours. And I was just sitting there. And I'm like, all right, let's see. Let's I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And I kept meditating. Actually, I stopped meditating on top of it, and I started meditating normally, and then information started to come in and come in and come in for
Wait,
like,
straight afterwards.
yeah, it was like
Wow.
I opened the floodgates and nothing came in, and then all of a sudden it's like water and water and water and water for 2 or 3 months, to a point that I couldn't even study chiropractic school stuff because my mind, what, like all this stuff was happening inside my body and in my mind that I was like not even to able to like concentrate and focus in like another topic. And the funny thing is that I didn't have any words for it. It was just like
Yes.
it was like energy and data, but I had no like
And like
like
images?
huh
And images?
images, but I had no like I
Yeah.
couldn't say dog, you know. It was just like a
Yeah.
knowing. And I remember like asking people, they're 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, people that have been in the spiritual space more than
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I was like, I got to figure out what's going on. I'm like outsourcing information, right? I'm like, yo, yo, yo. And I told them about it. It's like, what do you mean? The fire of life is everything. That's like the inner religion, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know, it's either that or I'm just fucking I'm going crazy. And in between those 3 months, I remember, I can't remember even the month it was, but
So was this in 2020, right?
that was 2018.
Oh, right. Okay, fine.
That was 2018. In between 2018 2017, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018. And
Okay.
I'm like in Instagram, and all of a sudden, for some reason, you know, if you know how to create reality, you know reality is gonna reflect stuff. And I'm like, yo, I gotta figure out what's going on to me. And then for some reason, I'm like on the feed, and I see this account that's like calling my attention. And I'm like, but put it in there, and I open it, and it's Starfire's old account back in
Uh-huh.
2018 that was shadow banned and hacked. He was posting about Keylontic Science, and I'm like reading it. I'm like, oh wait, this is exactly what I know. Oh my god, this is exactly what the
Mm.
information that's coming into my space. And I just kept going. I'm like, yo, like this is happening to me, like blah 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 blah. And he's like, no, you're like you're
Cool.
unlocking stuff that people usually have to read. And so that was my initiation to that level of information. The wrong thing that I did was that I shifted the inner balance and the outer balance to more outer than inner. Bless you, or bless you. And so I started watching videos of quantum science, but I was, but I was always mindful of what I had within, because another
Mm.
thing that you can do with information is that you can cross
Yes.
reference it with your DNA, with your like true
Yeah.
self, not the perspectives that you have with your true self. And if you're able to drop your ego, drop your like your perceptions of reality, and be able to like bounce it off from your own inner self, you can see if things are true or not. And I would do that with certain videos, just investigating, because I was like, I don't know where this all this information is coming, and it was very accurate to what she was saying at certain points of the videos.
Yeah. You're talking about Asha and Dean? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of what started it. I still practice certain things, but I don't practice verbatim exactly what
Yeah. Love that.
she has,
So,
because
sorry, just rewind. You said that one thing that you did is that you shifted the focus, that you started
yeah,
looking out. Is that what you said?
yeah. So um, instead of
It makes sense.
instead of meditating more and diving within myself to log all that information, that to get that
Okay.
information, I was going more into watching videos and reading, mostly because I had no language
Yeah.
to communicate in my conscious mind and to
Yeah.
people what was
But
going on.
also, was it the first time that something like this had happened to you, where you had loads of information, or not really?
Not the first time, but this
Like
was
that.
a lot more of information, like a lot
Yeah.
more. And I didn't know, like I didn't have words
Yeah.
to you know, to kind of like make sense of it.
And quite precise as well.
What's that?
The information, it sounds like it was quite precise. It wasn't just like vague.
No, it was very detailed. It was
Yeah.
um and that's why I was like, all right, I you know, from this post I saw that I found new words that I can put into context with whatever I'm
Mm.
is coming up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I kind of shifted the focus into the external world more. And that was a mistake in a way,
Yeah.
because I like to always have a balanced space. But yeah, I always went and bounced the information from within myself. I would remove my ego. I would remove all the perceptions of, oh, I don't agree with this, or blah 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 blah, and I would go bounce it off with what's true or not, right? Based on what I knew, what I felt inside, because all this information it's
You
inside
have to.
of
You
us.
have to.
Yeah. So it's I found that was the best way to do that.
I mean, just what you said there, I feel like there's so much of that going on. Oh, this is true, this isn't, this is that, this is that. It's just like, oh my word. But also, it's kind of what's happening in the world right now as well.
Yeah, it's basically different illusions of separation, and then the mind, people being too much in the mind.
Wow. Yeah, wow. I love that definition. Different illusions of
But
separation.
yeah,
Yeah.
going back to your question,
Question.
I did some of the practices.
Yeah.
Some of them were really good. Some of them
Yeah.
I didn't resonate with. If they have
Uh,
specific symbols and specific things, they just didn't feel that what they were for me.
yeah.
And so I remodeled some of the symbols to fit my template. Um,
This is when you say the symbols, you talk about the code, the Vector codes.
like Vega codes and stuff like that. There were some that resonated. There was some that didn't resonate.
Good.
And or I was guided not to use them. And then I as I know symbols, a square, you have a square, you can put a lot of things inside a square that might be good for you or not good for you. And so I would get the basic imprint and I would meditate on it and I would try to find and sense what are the little codes that I needed or the fire letters to use for myself that were specific to me. And
Mm,
I don't share that with anybody because they're specific to me. And she might have specific, like the ones that she should miss, specific to her and to other layers of reality, but in that moment I didn't need it. So I just went into that and I started unlocking more data, more meditations. And some of them were really similar to hers. Some of them weren't.
love that. So basically, this is like this technology with symbols. You can like look and meditate on it, right?
Yep.
And it unlocks things in your
Yep.
consciousness.
Yep.
Um, and you basically started kind of creating your own because I know a few different people started doing that, right?
Yep. That's part of it as well. They're just
Yes. I'd love to, yeah,
removing.
speak.
Yeah, it's they're just removing an encryption that's in there that they might not resonate with, that they might not trust, and then they're adding their own energy into it.
Mm. Yeah, because even there with that, I feel like there was a because again, it's like something from someone else, right? She has given these symbols and codes, so it's like, in a way, is it fully trustworthy? Who knows? You know.
It's like everything in the external world. Can you trust me? Can you not trust me? Or can I trust you or not trust you? It's like, you can get into that, right? But in reality, it just goes back to trusting yourself and seeing
Yeah,
how much of you do you trust to understand how much of another thing you can trust outside of you, right?
yeah, yes, and also I guess testing out and seeing. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And so I still practice certain things. I don't read that much or watch much videos
Mm.
because I got what I needed from that. And then there were some
Mm.
other things that happened to her and to the information that might not be in the best or most aligned way, or at least for myself.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
yeah, it still provided a lot of insight. I still bounce information sometimes from the information that she has just to verify certain things within myself.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's where it is.
Yeah,
Do
I feel like at the same time, once you get to this kind of, well, anyway, within that kind of realm, realizing what's going on, it's like, okay, now you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's more to know. There's more to embody as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Intriguing to know where all the more to know is going to come. But I feel like the more to know is going to be such a, yeah, it to do with the personal experience of what's happening in your body, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it makes sense. I feel like when I realize, when you realize specifically what you were talking about with the flower of life thing, it just puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, it helps you define with some context why things are the way they are in a
Well,
way.
they are. Yes. Okay, now that's what I wanted to ask you about that because I like hearing other people's ways of kind of like defining it. Um, so what it's basically the whole premise of Keylontic Science and base 12 mathematics, but how can you share that knowledge and information now when it comes to this flower of life, the different flowers of life?
Can you reframe the question?
If you're going to explain to someone like what the insight was that you realized when it comes to the flower of life? How would
To me, it depends on where their consciousness is.
mm,
Because some people, might be religious and they don't know what the flower of life is, or
true?
some people might know what the flower of life is, but they're attached to it. So I would, ex-
True.
right? So I would explain it in a way that they can associate it with something that they find true in their
Yeah.
life, and then if it's the case, I will walk them towards that. Sometimes I will just sit down and just like blurt it all
Yeah.
out. You like it
Yeah.
or
Sometimes. Yeah.
not? It just depends on the given consciousness of the group, I guess. Like
So like,
last time that I
yeah.
did that, it was in Tulum, and it's like a group of 8 people, and I just went through it. As I'm going through it, you saw 2 people standing up and leaving because they didn't want it.
Mm,
Some people start yawning, and some people start like getting like drowsy and sleepy because it's a lot of information. And then even I had a friend that went to sleep and had a whole event of him going outside and going through a whole experience of exiting the flower of life after I shared
wow.
that with him. Yeah, and he told me the other day, I'm like, welcome to the world, bro.
Ah. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear you. So for you, what is the flower of life?
Flower of life is a mathematical equation symbol template that has sets of contracts, rules, and levels of enforcement where you can have realities and experiences inside of them. And so, depending on the laws and rule sets and the enforcement, there is ways that you can create realities and experience realities inside that symbol. And so, um, yeah, it just has different things that allow for duality to exist, for separation to exist, for harm to exist, to the different things that can exist within that can be out of balance completely or in balance completely or to the other side completely.
Mm,
And it's just basically that. It's just a mechanism of having different levels of experiences. And
mm, mm, mm.
if you go into demonizing into all this stuff, then you're existing within one of the paradigms of it, which is duality. And that's another layer of your experience that has to do with separation.
Yeah.
So,
Because there was a whole wave of that happening, right?
right, right. And there's a whole wave of people really attached to it, which is not
Yes.
bad, but it's still part of your experience that they have to go through to choose to go beyond that.
So there's the base 10 flower of life, and then there's the base 12 flower of life. And a lot of people are like, no, the base 10 one is like not the right one. Da, 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 da. And I feel like that was such a big thing that happened, and it still happens. And
Yeah, that's
um,
duality. It's duality. It's basically
mm,
duality. Yeah, it can be one that's more expansive and better for you, and one that is not that better for you.
yeah,
But
so this, yeah.
say it again.
Sorry, you were saying something.
Um, yeah, but if you're engaged in that level of thinking or experiencing, you're still in duality itself, which is
Yeah.
one of the programs that are inside the flower of life. So you can be saying like, oh, flower of life bad, this one is good, but then if you're having that reality within yourself, you're still inside the flower of life.
Well, well,
That's duality.
so how do you see it? Because it's very fascinating, really. Like the way that it is. Like the base 10 one is like how you described. It's got the specific set of rules and functions, right?
Hmm.
And the base 12 one is basically what you're saying is leaving the wheel of samsara, right? So
Yeah, you can
how
say it like that. Yeah.
so how would you describe it without going into that duality of like, no, this one's good and this one's bad, you know?
Well, it goes to the basic principles of how the
Mm,
reality works, right? The mirror effect, the duality effect, how you move through it with emotions, how you accept certain things that beliefs that you put yourself in different boxes or in different rooms that trap your full free expression in this space. So I would go from that perspective of the basics without
the
having,
basic.
yeah, like just not having to go into, oh,
The
multidimensional,
science.
yeah, sciences, multidimensional mechanics, which are in reality they're refined forms of thinking.
Mm. Mm.
It's it's the consciousness inside the construct analyzing and understanding the construct through either experience or thinking, right? So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
does a light bulb work? Why is it has to be shaped like that and not a square? Oh, that doesn't matter. What matters is that creates light. Oh, like, and you start defining all those things and you start figuring out how things work, and that's basically what Keylontic Science is, what multidimensional physics is, what metaphysics is, what quantum physics is defining different levels of the construct that we're in with
Oof.
different perspectives. And so to me,
Oof.
to exit the reality, you have to understand that if you want to, but also there's parts of you that already know that. And so
Mm.
what are you going to overstimulate your mind or your brain to figure these things out? Yeah, you can, but then if you're too much on that side, then you're not embodying that much, you're not doing the healing, you're not bringing that stuff from within, right?
Mm.
And so there has to be some type of balance that
I,
you have to go
I
back to
love that you,
again.
I love it that you always come back to this.
Yeah, that's one of the basic principles, is going back to that neutral state, to
Yes.
observe that, right? You can observe, be in creation, be part of it. It just depends how you want to experience reality.
So did just to ask you, because I feel like there was a wave of people at the time who discovered this information and went into that kind of like dualistic thinking. Did you go into that, or were you able to observe? Did you see
I
like, okay,
had a point that I was
yeah,
at the beginning,
mm,
but then I realized that, even my body is an imprint of that. So if I'm seeing that as wrong, then I'm seeing my body as wrong. If I'm
separation,
Yeah, if I'm seeing all that as wrong, then you're actually condemning yourself in a way that you're not accepting yourself as well, like accepting the
mm,
body, not your consciousness and not the flower of life being there, but you need the body to exist here, right? If the purpose of everything is to
yeah,
escape it or go out, or grow up from it, if you need your body to grow through the experience, then why are you, you know condemning it in a wrong way? You have to
yeah.
assimilate it. You have to
So
assimilate that
you,
information.
so I like that. So you moved through this process basically of
Yeah,
like, hang on a minute, that kind of isn't working. And I guess in a way it's like coming back into unification. This is the word that's coming up,
yep,
um,
yeah.
and
Because
so how, go on.
to me, healing in its primal form is separation. You're healing that. You're bringing things
Separate.
together. You're bringing the opposites into balance. You're going from duality to polarity to integration to union, right? You're always trying to bring things that are separate, that are opposite, together to integrate and heal, and that's essentially the road back to source.
Yes,
Which
wow.
Yeah,
Fudge, that and also like ultimately that's the journey that we're going through right now, right?
everyone.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah, so we're moving through this different template of the flower of life.
and it allows for these different levels of experiencing. So once you
Yes.
once you collapse all the dualities, well, once you integrate all the polarities, you
Mm.
don't need to exist here, because you
Yeah.
already learned the game, you already played it, and you understand it, and you don't have to go back into it unless you want to, re-experience it to help another part of yourself or whatever. You're bored in source creation, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna do like 100 more lives down there.
That was like, that sounds like a lot.
uh, so sometimes that
So
happens.
yeah. So this kind of comes back to what you were saying about the bifurcation as well, and the hubs, and the when you learn the perimeters and of the geometry, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You as establishing some places where people can experience the least level of separation or have the things that they need to work through that. And
Mm.
if they're ready, because it's a choice. there's gonna be many others around the world, and it's basically goes back to the level of experience that you want to have.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's a choice. Like I feel like, oh, why is this not charging? It's a choice, yeah. Because sometimes we get that. I know. I was like, what?
On point, on cue.
Yeah. Jokes. So, yeah, just love this conversation, and yeah. So basically, the Keylontic Science thing happened towards the end of when you were studying as well, right? Yeah,
It happened between 2018 to
yeah,
2022, 2023.
and
I still revisit things of it.
yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah, because this,
Because there's foundation and
yeah,
information. There's great descriptions and
yeah,
understandings of how reality
yeah, yeah, yeah,
works and how you upgrade it
yeah.
to a higher form of experience.
Mm,
Not that the other is lower, but I'll just use that word to define
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Love that.
It's a different experience. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So yeah, so and then after this, what happened?
After this, I still started meditating, working on deeper aspects of healing. Again, integrating those duality concepts, those traumas, those things that separate each other from within, and started studying the law
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
and
When did
then
that start?
working with. Started in. I started getting downloads of that information back in like 2019. I started understanding how what are corps, what are egregores, how they tie that to symbols. I started getting downloads from the flags, the countries, and but most of this journey was interrupted by tests and school and like chiropractic stuff. And so that's why I was saying I was going on and off, on and off, on and off. And one of my directives was to create a space where I could dive in, and that's basically where I'm at right now. To actually dive into all that stuff and not have to deal with 3D
Yeah.
stuff and be able to work half a life, do whatever I need to do to maintain that process in a space that I can do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the law stuff started in 21, I believe. Um, and that was kind of like the next step.
Yeah. I feel like this the journey of sovereignty in that meaning is such a big part of this journey that we're going through. But also it's very connected to the flower of life, right? The same.
What is that again?
All the law stuff, right? And the sovereignty, it's like it's the same thing, really.
Well, it's everything is law, consent, and contract. Because to have a law, you have to have a contract that enforces the law or maintains the law, and then you have to have consent
Mm.
that goes into the contract, that goes into the law. So when you go into this reality, you have to consent that you're coming, you have to contract or agree that you're going to work with this framework of laws. So in reality, everything is that.
Yes, yes,
Everything is rules, laws, however you want to say it,
consent,
templates,
boundaries. Yeah,
containers, boundaries, etc. It goes back to the same thing, and that's why I say like once you start looking at it, everything from different perspectives, you start seeing the things that are the
it's the
same in
thing. I
everything,
love that. And one of my
and it goes back to the
yeah,
basics.
one of my friends is studying law, and he always says, everything is a negotiation. Like everything.
Yep, anything is a transaction, is an agreement,
Yeah,
etc. Everything is.
yeah,
Mhm.
agreement. That's a good word. So, but I would like to just because I feel like a lot of people who have gone down that avenue of common law, sovereignty, all that stuff, all that good stuff. Um, there's so much information, da 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 da. But you are actually one of the people, which I feel like there's not actually that many people who have actually reclaimed their status, right?
Yeah, Yeah, so from the contemporary level of reality that we have right now, the system started back in the Egyptian times and before that, and it's been perfected throughout the the generations to what we have today, which is this what people call draconian rule.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when it's the Moors had a system like this as well. It was a lot. I feel that it was better. It was more an organic creation that had free energy. It had a lot more. It still had commerce. It still had trade. It still had money, I believe. But there were different things to the system that we have right now. The system that we have right now is a lot more uh, entrapping and more difficult to navigate and more harvesting of our energy. Um, More control in general. But yeah, you want me to give you like a brief history or what?
Yeah, I guess you could do. Why not? Budget, yeah.
But some from the from where I know, it goes back to symbolism, and so there's two pillars, just like in the Masons, and it's one that comes from the pillar of the line of the king or the bloodline of the king and the bloodline of the priests. And so one is, you can throw all the symbolisms that you want, but basically there's the priests usually rule the king castes or the king's bloodline. They choose who they want to put in the throne. Just kind of like the movie Dune.
Dude.
I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
the movie Dune. Talks about, it's all about law. That it's all about law, and whenever you ever see it from that perspective, and it also has to do with the story of Jesus as well. Bless you. Um, but in that movie, you can see most of that represented with the royal families, the military, the signing of contracts. The priest caste, which is the Bene Gesserits,
Mm.
controlling who is in house. House this, house that, which are the royal bloodlines that they control,
Yes.
and how they interbreed within the bloodlines to have a more like a Jesus type figure that has more power in their bloodline based on the training that the mom had. Similar to the story of whatever you want to call Jesus and the world in reality as well. And so going back to the law stuff, it goes back to those two principles and the arc, which is the Anu, etc. If you even go into the United States, they keep that symbolism very openly. And if you look at the Social Security card, you'll see two pillars and a bridge or an arc on top of it. And there's many layers of symbolism, but it really goes down to that, and it's how they control the life force energy in between those two pillars. Um, just like in the symbolism that we have today in regards to language is goes back to the maritime language, which you can have a bank and then current. And if you look at it from the banking perspective, then that's a bank, another bank, and a currency that travels in between. Or if you look at it from the perspective of water, a river has a river bank, and the current that flows in between. So it goes into language, it goes into
Mm.
symbolisms, and it goes into the law that controls all of that. From the, let's say, the most recent time, uh, they started controlling. They I'm not gonna mention who they are, but there's many levels of
Love that.
they. Uh,
What a-
there's many levels of they. Uh, there's
just
what?
quickly, one of my friends says that they is the hierarchy enslaving you. Like
Right. That's a good way of putting it. But they, the people that we decided to play in this hologram with,
I
uh,
like that.
right? They started synthesizing all of it by the wars of the ruling classes back when they started destroying the Tartarian Empire and the Moors and all that stuff to start controlling the Templar, which is basically the energy of the planet, that the ley lines, the chakras of the planet, etc. And they started shutting that off. This is from the multidimensional perspective or metaphysical perspective. They shutting that off, and as they shut that off, they were able to conquer different things by spilling the blood. They would shut down specific ley lines and then conquer the nodal points of those ley lines to turn them into their control. With fast forward to the future, they established the Turks started conquering the how do you call it? What they called the Mongols and the Berbers, the barbarians, the Vikings, etc. To the what was their name? I can't remember now. Anyway, and ended up in the Vatican after the fall of Rome. They just changed different empires and conquered different things and infiltrated, etc., until
Years and
the
years and
fall of
years.
Rome and
Yeah.
the fall of the Empire of Rome, which was more a political
Yeah.
scene, and then they turned it into a religious scene, which is what we call the Vatican.
Ah, yes.
And through the Vatican, yeah, the Vatican started something called the Unum Sanctum
Yeah.
Trust, and they let out a claim conquering all land, all sea, all creatures in between, which and their
To
souls.
own them,
That's
right?
basically, yeah. They put out a notice to the world
Yeah.
to own them,
Yeah.
right? And so they started doing that through the technology of signatures, blood pledges, and karmic loops. Which the karmic loops, you can see them in war.
Mm,
When people kill people, that binds them into a certain loop. That also, there's like the pledging, which is like, oh, this king, and then this guy kneels and gives a pledge of knighthood or whatever to this, or they signed a contract in blood, or they sign a contract and it ties into the generation or to that soul. So that's how they started binding a lot of the things. It was still done before, from what I understand, and that's what it ties into soul contracts and soul, all this spiritual stuff that people are like working through to unravel and clear, so that there's a better um, reflection in the world of that. And so it started with that, and then they started perfecting what is commerce, what is the common law that was established in England, and how people were trying to defend their rights, their God-given rights, you can call them, their land rights, their basic needs rights, and how all this stuff was started to be taken away. And as the generations passed, because they would dumb them down, or they would create different sectors in society, and they would favor these people with this last name or favor people with cars, and they started switching the attention to what really mattered, to physical things that they
yeah.
controlled.
Materialism.
And yeah, yeah. And by doing so, they started all these revolutions, like the industrial revolution, blah 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 revolution, blah 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 revolution. And through those mechanisms in war, they started conquering and changing the capacity, or the not the perspective of the world, to one that they ruled
Mm,
or that they control. And then when you give somebody, like, I need a car, now I need gas, now I need parts for the car, now I need this, now I need that, and they tend to control all of
yeah.
it. So they create a society that you need
Yeah.
something to be part of, and you depend on
Depend. Yeah.
them to be part of it as
Yeah.
well. And so that's what has been happening for thousands of years, of to where we are at today. In regards to the law stuff, I just gave you a background, is how they
Yeah.
manipulate and they manage to
Control. Yeah.
control all of that,
Yeah.
right? And so um, in reality, we're supposed to abide by the basic principles of laws, which are universal laws, and other sets of laws that are um, equal to everyone. They're based on equity, which is equality. And what they did is that they went from violating God's law, or laws that respect all the creatures of God, let's put it that
Mm,
way, to creating corporate laws, to creating maritime laws, to creating different levels of
mm,
laws. And then through jurisdiction, because each level of law is a jurisdiction, they started putting the humans that were on the God side more into the commercial side and going into the lower aspects of those laws that they created, that they control. And so depending where you are born, it all starts at birth and before birth, because if your mom is contracted with the commercial document known as the birth
Certificate.
certificate, then they consider the mom's placenta an admiralty product,
Mm.
or a product of the sea which they control. And so whenever you're birthed, they see you as a product just coming out of the boat.
Yeah.
And so in the moment that you come out of the boat, they get your footprint, they put it on a piece of paper, and they contract your soul to the paper, which then they turn it into a negotiable instrument, which basically is a paper that has value based on your energy.
Mm.
And then they create a monetary system that they manipulate so that the energy is based on how much effort you
In,
put into their system. And then that's managed, that birth certificate, it's like, when people bet on
yeah.
horses, imagine having the stock representation of that person, and you own 50% of it. Like, let's say a high athlete, I don't know, Michael Jordan, and you own his birth
Mm.
certificate. So you basically own all the equity, capital, interest, and royalties that come out of his
Yeah.
effort to the system. You cannot own that. And that's the higher levels of the cult that we
Yeah.
live in, that don't even have money. They don't even need money. They're part of the people that manage the
Yeah.
system, right? That's because there's many
Yeah.
levels to this, but that's what they use the birth certificate for. They can give it a basic value of it based on the astrology that you're born with, and certain other mechanisms that give it a higher input, depending on the or a higher value based on the input that your imprint of soul can put into the system.
Mm.
And then, yeah, so they control everything through that. Everything from the moment that you wake up is a law. From the day that you go to the bathroom is law. It's all ruled by specific laws. And so, in the multidimensional sense of our reality, it is laws. And there's ways to bypass those laws without violating
Oof.
them, because they're only creating those laws. So, imagine this glass, and then you're put in that glass, but that glass is still existing in this room. And so, once you know this, you can exist outside of it in a way that you still use these laws, but they don't use
Ooh.
you.
Yeah.
And so, like everything in the reality, let's say that this room has laws, and you don't know the laws of mirroring, and you're in a loop. In a way, you can see that life is bad and God is bad and all this stuff is bad because you don't understand how it
Yeah.
works. And so I don't understand how it all works, but I like to understand how things work so I
Yeah.
can do it better for myself and then do it better for the people around
Mm.
me. And so, going back to the law process, it basically goes into this ladder of God rights to human rights, which in the definition of human in the law dictionary means a beast or a monster.
Yeah.
And then below that, you have all the people that got the jab, and because of the patentizing effect of the things in that substance, essentially they can modify your genome and you can be a patented human, patented monster.
Mm.
And so that goes to a lower level, which is the system that they're trying to
Mm.
upload
Yeah.
right now, which is the electronic system, which is the system of things,
Yeah.
basically.
The Internet of Things.
Right. And so by these tricks, they try to put you in lower levels of who you are not. And so the more you know about these things, the more you can take motion in a way that protects you, your body, your soul, and the people
Yeah.
around you.
Navigate it. So, but the
Correct.
journey that you did basically was connected with the birth certificate, right?
Yeah, it all starts at
Yeah.
birth.
And reclaiming your status as a free sovereign being, right?
Well, and by definition, the word sovereign is Reign is something that has to do with crown, and sovereign is
Yes.
basically someone that stands on the land and does not own it, nothing to anybody
Oof.
else.
Love that.
Yeah, so what they did is that they brought all the laws of
Almost.
commerce, which are the laws of water or the sea, on top of the land, and they
Yeah, yeah,
created this paper jurisdiction where everybody stands on. And the system that we have right
yeah.
now, for you to be part of that and be able to have a car, pay light, blah 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 blah, in some way you have to be set up to be able to engage with that
Yes.
system,
Yeah.
right? And so in a way you could see that as the system of the dead, because the way that people connect to that system is through a fake entity which they call the name on that ID or their birth certificate, that then can connect to that dead
Yeah.
system, essentially. So it's not a system of living
Yes.
people, it's a system of entities
So this
that
is
are
the
dead.
reclaiming into a living.
Right, so that's what yeah, so that's what they call the book of the dead, and then the book of life is what you do on the other side, and it's basically moving yourself from the dead to the
Yeah.
living, and declaring certain things at certain levels so that the system knows that you know, in a way that's passive, because if you do it in a way that's aggressive, then it's going to fight back towards you.
When you say passive, that's interesting.
So a lot of people come into this stuff and they have hate and they
Ah,
have
gotcha.
the system, this, system that, and they're blaming, blaming, blaming,
Yeah.
blaming. But if they understand, the bigger reality of it, it's just a reflection of your awareness on your what you need to
Yeah.
heal. So as you go through the process, you have to do it in a way that you're neutral and
Gotcha.
peaceful, because if not, you're creating conflict and you're creating war, and you're going against something that's way bigger.
Yes. So why did you decide to do this as well? Because I think some people still operate. It's interesting you use that word
Yeah.
passive because I feel like some people are still doing it, but without going to the extent that you did, for example.
Why I did it? Because I need, that's part of my purpose, and I need those instruments and capacities and statuses so that I can move around
Yeah,
uh, in case stuff goes down in the not so good
yeah.
way.
And how did it feel?
It's a there's different levels of fear that come up
Mm,
because you're indoctrinated to, it's the word government means govern, from the Latin, which means govern, and mente, which means mind, right? So they govern your mind. So once you start governing your mind, not them, you start unlocking different things within yourself. So it's a level of embodiment and
love.
noticing, but also there's, they've been indoctrinating the government's evil, the government's evil. And when you start doing this thing, there's some levels of fear that come
Yeah.
up. But when you start understanding how the reality outside of this works, that they're bound by that same reality, and you have access to that reality, you start not fearing,
Yes, love that.
and you start moving however you want inside of here and then outside of
Yeah. So
here,
you.
and not in a way that's in violation of the
Yeah.
laws, but in a way that you create your situation that favor you in regards to where you need to go. And so, as you're doing these things, there's things that come up, and the realizations that come up, and embodiment levels that come up to be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
govern
Yeah.
yourself in a higher level. That's where you could say that the word sovereign could come into play, because the more that
Yeah.
you know how to govern yourself, the more sovereignty
You
that
actually
you
have.
have,
Yeah.
and the more, yeah, the closer you are to being that sovereign king standing on his own territory and not having to deal with other people attacking or owing shit to them.
So, and at this stage, would you say that you're kind of like navigating between both of those statuses?
Well, in reality, it's the difference is that the way the system sees my information is different to the way that the other people are seen in the system. So I have to pay bills, I have to go, get gas, I have to still drive around. So there's things that I use within the system that are part of the system, but the way that those things are seen inside the system, or the way that they see me, is different to the way that they see my neighbor, for example. In the system, my neighbor is a slave, which is called a U.S. citizen. Because citizen basically comes from the Empire of Rome, and the way that they got citizens of Rome is that if they were not living in Rome itself, they would go to a neighboring town and they would be like, hey, the barbarians are gonna come and pillage and plunder your village and kill your wives and sons. So you have two options. You either do that, or we can protect your land, your children, your family, but you have to give us your father, your husband, and your children to be part of our war. And then they brought the taxes, and so that's how you became a citizen of Rome, is because Rome protected you,
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Sounds very gangster.
right? It's a passive way of conquering
Yeah.
people. It's the same that they did in all the other countries when people started registering their property. Regis means crown or the king, and registering is basically giving it to the king.
Mm.
So when you register a baby, you're basically giving the baby to the
Yeah.
government in a way.
So that's I like what you said there though, but like, do you feel that like now after also having to do this integration to get to this point, when you engage in these things that are still like part of the matrix and part of that system, does it feel different?
It feels different because I understand what's
Yes.
happening,
Ooh.
uh, but I'm not yet in a level. I'm going towards a level that you're more fluid
Mm.
in the system rather than having more obstacles,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm doing the process so I can do what I'm here to do and not have to deal with restrictions and illegal
Yeah.
mandates and
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah, it makes sense. Um, nice. Thanks so much for explaining all of that. I love the way.
And there's a lot more, but
Those-
I'll give it like a general overview of how it works. Um, and I'll have soon a like a community online community thing, and I'll put a video presentation that goes a lot more in depth
Nice.
into the general structure of all of it.
Yeah.
But there's information in the internet. A lot of people, I don't know how to do it in other countries. The U.S. has some backdoors for that, and I know people that know how to do it as well as myself. I know Canada might have some backdoors as
So,
well. UK and
yeah,
Japan
UK has.
might have some.
Um, question: are you still using a passport and your driver's license?
Yes, I have a passport, but like I said, it's different in the system, and I still have a driver's license because I still don't own my car how I want it to be owned.
Mm.
And so once I have it set up in the proper way, I probably won't use the driver's license.
Yeah.
But you have to do it. Before you do all these things, you have to know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
100.
You just can't. Oh, I don't want to have a driver's license. La, 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 like a lot of people do, and they end up in jail because you're doing it
Mm.
wrong. And that's the rebellious nature. You're not coming in peace. You're coming like a little baby.
Mm.
You're like a baby in the sense of you don't know, and then you're like complaining or like being like a brat.
Mm, mm, mm,
And it's a level of maturity. You have to self govern.
mm. Is there anything else you would like to share about that?
Um, yeah, if people are interested in doing that in the U.S., they could hit me up.
Mm. Nice.
And if they're there, I'll show them how.
Mm. And that's it. I think we can kind of like conclude here. I'd love to hear about where do you see your like trajectory going with the shift that's happening at the moment?
So I see myself creating different locations around the world
Mm.
that are embodied for these specific reasons
Mm.
that we just talked about. A lot of traveling, helping other people in need, and enjoying being
Mm.
playful with what I have and what we're here to do. And yeah, more podcasts.
Mm.
Let's see what else. Yeah, different levels of embodiment. I would say that resumes it, or
Mm.
yeah, covers it all.
Love that. Something just came up as you were sharing that, like, um, just like, how do I put this into words? Because I feel like the journey that sometimes we go on is so much information, embodiment, work, integration that's going on. And sometimes from the external, it looks like, oh, this person thinks that they're better than, you know what I mean? What is your
Hmm.
reflection on that? Because I feel like sometimes people are just doing what they're here to do, you know?
Yeah, there's people that genuinely think that are better than other
True.
people, right? um, there's people that will think of that from people that are very sure on
Mm.
themselves, and it's their own projection of their own
Mm.
insecurity. Um, and then there's other people that are doing what they're here to do. They're embodying it, and they don't care about other people's opinion, whether it's their ego in reality, or whether it's
Mm.
what they're what they're here to do.
Mm.
And so to me, it's about, in all the different situations, is to be humble and to know if it's you or if it's the other person, and
Yeah.
then see why that person is reflecting that a part of you that you're maybe not seeing.
Mm.
Because we're here to stand on our power, and one of our first trauma is that we lost it. We put it away, we gave it to somebody else,
Yeah.
we don't use it, and then when somebody stands in their power, you do the same that they did to you,
Yes. Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
and so stand on your fucking power
Yes.
and fuck everybody else, but be humble about it.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, be humble about it, know that you're gonna make mistakes,
Mm.
and know that's good. It's a process of
Yeah.
refinement. And that's, yeah, the more that you stop in your power, the more that you trust, the more that you love yourself.
Mm. Very much. I
Humbly,
love it.
right? Because you can there can there can be ego with that. There can be, like,
Yeah.
that same question that you
Yes.
asked, but it's all about being
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. 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 Love that. Amazing final words there. Uh, one
Thank you,
one more
Jess.
question I'd like
It
to
was
ask people
yeah, right.
before we wrap it up is, what does freedom mean to you?
What does freedom mean to you? It means so many things. Uh, it means so many
Love
things.
it.
If I um, yeah, it just means so many things to me. There's many layers to what I consider freedom to be. But I would say that if I were to find something that is in common in all of them, is to truly be who I am here to be, in all of those different ways that I could experience that.
Mm.
That Yeah, it's like a free not freedom, it's like free
One of those ways.
yeah. I would say that is just to be able to express freely as my true authentic self, centered in who I
Yeah.
am, in all of these different levels of expression, without any
Yeah.
containment of what.
Love it. I feel like as you were reflecting and you were saying so many things, I just saw like everything that we've just spoken about in the so many different ways is just breaking free.
Yeah,
That is the journey.
yeah, it's a journey of self-governance, really. It's a
Ooh, what?
self-sovereignty.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the journey of self-governance, self-sovereignty, because the more that you take responsibility for yourself, the more you love yourself, the more you integrate yourself, the more you heal, the more you can express that into the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. But I love that freedom is also connected with self governance because it's like
Yep.
sounds a bit like a dichotomy, right? But it's like,
Right. And the more people can do that, the more we can be in alignment to do it with other people
hmm
at different levels, and that goes back into the hubs, back into, places that need
yeah,
these rules that don't go by the rules of the universe, because the people inside of here are not self-governing. they're
yeah,
not doing what they need to be doing in their own responsibility. And that's why systems like this actually
Yep.
exist. And the more that people don't do what they need to do to work with the rules of the universe, or like the laws of the universe, the more the system is gonna
Yeah.
contract on it.
Yeah.
And at least that's how I see it, and so far is modeled
Yeah.
that. So it's, people can revolt against this, and they can go hit this and try to break it, but what they need to break is their own programming, is their own like healing, their own nonsense, because as they do that, this starts to
Right.
fall apart.
And you just got to see it.
And then we are actually all existing in a world that is, divinely ruled, there's common
Mm.
respect, and
Mm.
I'll say
And self-governed. Love that. Amazing. Yes. Thank you. Bless you. Bless you.
thank you.
Yeah.
uh, this is
Yeah, it
wonderful,
was amazing.
and I hope to do another one with you again,
Yes.
or maybe I'll have you on my podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Such an amazing conversation. It was so good to hear your journey. I feel like obviously I've met you before, but we didn't get to like dive in. So it's really nice to hear all about this. And also just like,
Well,
sorry?
now I was gonna say we'll see much more of each other
Yeah,
for
I think
sure.
we will. And just also, I love the dedication to the path and to the journey and the way that you shared it, and also always this balance coming back. And just also, I feel like this, yeah, the different ways and levels of doing it and taking it all the way to this, self governance with the law and everything is it's massive. It's massive work. It's massive.
Yeah, you do it in the way that you can do it, whether it's healing
Mm.
food, through your house, through every level of conduct that you have is self-governance. Doesn't need to be all of them.
Mm.
Do what you
Love it. I feel like you're doing all of them.
I'm trying to do as many as I can.
So thank you.
Uh,
Thanks for your
yeah,
work. I'm looking forward to seeing it as
thank you.
well. Your fruition.
Definitely. Yes, thank you for having me here. I felt welcome,
Yay.
and I'm living a lot more joyful and calm.
Mm.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode and to this podcast. We hope that you can gain many insights through the art of listening. If you haven't already, we would love it if you can follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if that feels right for you. We've also just launched our first online course, Awakening 101, a ninja's guide to navigating a spiritual awakening, which is led by me and is offered via donation. So if you feel called to that, then please dive in. It's available via our website. Thank you.